software that's purposely built for educational value. It has features that, for example, it's rugged. You break it. Don't try that with your... Please. Don't try it. Don't try it. Okay? But you can do it this, because you know what? Let me show you another educational tool. This pencil, right? It's an educational tool. It drops. This drops, right? You want kids to enjoy this experience, not be worried that, you know, if I drop it, Daddy's going to be mad at me because we just invested in this device that's going to help me educate. And the first day it breaks, right? It's going to break the table if I keep doing this, right? Burkheimer's already saying stop, all right? Twice is enough, all right? So this is what we have. Rounded edges. So it doesn't hurt you, right? Rounded edges. Waterproof. Water resistant, my technical person over there would say. Water resistant, right? Don't jump in the swimming pool with it. But if this spills, I won't do it. But if this spills, this is protected, this has seals, and it has a USB. You may have a USB, my wife has a device, has no USB. It's a pain. Because kids still need to access that content. It'll run Flash. You still need to run Flash. Most 80% of the educational content worldwide is still running on Flash. 80%. Okay? And it's still good content. You know, you want to still learn about the pyramids. That hasn't changed that much, the history, in the last 2 years. It's still available for you in Flash, and you can do this by getting videos and having access, right? So you need to be able to run standard software, right? You need to have capabilities. In this one, some of these have built-in, for example, HDMI, if you want to plug that out, right? You have options. In this device, the beautiful thing about this device is that first it will be offered by local players in the marketplace. So again, that's in a way an equalizer, because I see you have a device, I don't know, it may not be built by a local player. This one can be offered as a branded product by one of your local players here in Malaysia, which is kind of cool, because then they can get into the value-added service of education service provision, right? So that could be interesting for them. A couple of other features here that you know, Bert, I may have you talk about this too. But one that I love, you know, one of the things that I read recently in an article, I think actually it was an article here, about the importance of science, technology, math, you know, engineering, because that is the future. Let me tell you, from a perspective of Intel, we know it because it's our folks that understand that move ahead in the company and help and are the leaders, right? It's the folks that have that kind of background, right? So this device, it's not just a cool tablet. It has a camera application that lets you swing, let's say, an object, and then it does a calculation, and it does a graph to tell you the approximate velocity, all right, of that swing. It gives you a curve that shows you the motion. One of the cool aspects of this is you can take a picture, and then you can use a scaling device to tell you that picture of a building relative to other, what's the size dimensions, right? So it lets you do some sizing and some of the cool things that you want to do in a science type experiment. But if you make it fun, it does become like a game. But the kids are learning. They're learning math, they're learning algebra, they're learning simple calculations or more complex calculations based on exercise and projects. Bert, you want to tell us a little bit, give me a couple more of these, because you were showing that to me yesterday, and I probably could use your help.
So, as Brian said, we're announcing the Intel Studybook. What this is we call it actually as a reference design. So this is an Intel design product, but we don't sell it. Rather, we make it available for local partners that then can offer it under their own brand name and with their own added features. So what you see here is a 7-inch tablet. It is purpose-built for education. As Brian mentioned, it has the rounded corners. It has a drop test. And the idea is for the drop test is that it's able to withstand a drop from a desk height. So the drop test is up to 70 cm. It has an IP IPC or industrial protection rating of 4.1. 4 is against dust and 1 is against liquid. So the whole idea is that if a kid spills his drink on it, that it won't destroy it. Again, what we are looking at and where we are coming from is to look at this as a holistic, as a whole education solution. So behind the industrial design, behind this, we are also offering several educational solutions on there. So one of it is, as Brian mentioned, it's the LabCam, which is a software which utilizes the camera for like as a microscope. You can attach an additional lens to it, as a motion cam, universal logger, and pathfinder. So that's one of the examples. Two other examples that I want to point out is one is what's called a classroom management software. So one of the concerns that every teacher has is that if kids start using that in the classroom, that they will lose control over the classroom. There are lots of devices, they go to the internet and so on. And so one of the features in here is the classroom management software, which sort of acts as a client server. The teacher has a console, and then which is able to control every device in the classroom, so that the teacher is able to push a button and the screen goes blank. The teacher is able to monitor each unit. So that is a second, like one of the features that we are also introducing. The third one is something called theft deterrent. Theft deterrent is to address the concern that schools have that these devices will get stolen or misplaced. And so theft deterrent works in such a way that if the device is connected to the school network every, like say, once a week, however you want to configure it, it gets disabled on the BIOS level. So even if you were to, let's say the device gets stolen and actually gets disabled, even if you were to rip out the hard drive and put a new one, it would not work. So those are sort of just some of the features that we've introduced. Again, for us, it is not just about the device. We are looking at it as an overall education solution, and that's why we looked at all of these features. Some of these features you might not even notice at first glance, but that is based on research. And we now have, this is the third device that we introduced as part of the Intel Learning series. Some of you might be familiar with the clamshell, as well as the convertible, and we sold now 7 million units.
7 million. It could be 10 million right now.
Yeah, 7 million units. So there's a lot of experience, classroom experience that goes into this. And so again, the idea is to have a holistic solution, not just a device, a cheap device that will work for some things but not for other things.
One of the important things to note here, the reason why we have done multiple devices is the fact that one size does not fit all. So even if you look at the whole K-12 landscape, what the kids need, say between K and K-2 or K-3 is very different between, versus 8 to 12 standard, right? Because they would need, the higher end would need content creation ability, much more horsepower in terms of collaboration, right? They would need a full-fledged keyboard. The needs there are much more different than the entry-level kids what they would desire. So that's why there is a tablet in Studybook. There are clamshell versions of CMPCs. There is convertible version of CMPC. Plus there are notebooks, ultrabooks, and several other devices which really cater to different needs of education.